Hi everyone, this is Corey here. I'm back again with some game design, and today I will work on the weapon system. It will be not a review already created design review today, but it's full on just trying to build a better weapon system what I currently have. For introduction, so the game what I'm very early prototyping, nothing more than just a proof of concept at the moment, is will be a battleship what get attacked by all kind of enemies, and I will not do any code today, but I'm trying to design up the weapon system. So I already previous stop that because we will not really need that. And yes, so previous episodes I'm already was working a little bit around the weapon system, but mainly with the other bits like the reward system and progress and some of the ECS engine. It's a 3D game in Unity. I'm using mainly scriptable objects and for storing data, events for communicating between the different modules and elements, and I'm using ECS for creating the mass of the enemies. And one of the things was about the weapon system, I was already designing it earlier, working on it, and it's never really wanted to work. Somehow something was really missing there. From the logic how I built it up, it was not there. So the other day I kind of was napping, having a nap after a nice dinner what my wife made, and half asleep the kids wake me up, and then in that moment it just came in my mind like it's the weapons itself split to 3 parts, and then it's materialized in my mind really of how I should do the weapon system which would work. So the idea is I have 3 parts: the weapons itself as a data which has the basic data on what kind of basic states it have and how is it reacts if when you level it up. So that would be the weapon data. I'm not in StarTech. And it will have things like base power instead of power, and base recharge length and base effect length, and all the basic values and the per level one. And then there will be the current weapon, which the weapon data, but modified, like what is the current value on that specific weapon, how many missiles we're shooting, for example, or how many lasers, if it's lasers, or bombs we're throwing, what level are they on, so if on that level, then how much damage they currently do, what I'm calculating from that, plus because we have skills which modify damage, how many missiles we do, how large area they do the damage, and so on. So the skills included in that, so that's the current values, all the calculated values going on to that one. And then the third one, I had to realize something. Let me just show you. I made a mini little design here. And this one is Sorry for the design. That's the only one that I found on Figma. But the ships shoots rocket, for example, but the rocket has nothing to do with the damage area, like the explosion, which is actually doing the damaging. Some of them maybe do, even a laser uh, wouldn't do that one, or if there is a beam, is maybe much more closely related the the shape of the weapon and the damage of the weapon. But the most of the time, a bomb, a torpedo, or anything else, if it goes and does explosion, then the explosion itself, the shape of the explosion, which is needed for the spatial calculations to calculate which enemies are need to be damaged, that's nothing to do with the weapon itself. If that makes sense, right? So the weapon shape and collider is very different from actually maybe the potential damage what it does. So that's the reason I will create a weapon damage data component, which we will able to use in the damage module on the ECS side. And the another thing what I want to be separating here, like technically that's just data, this is the weapon, and that's the ECS. So separating the weapon itself, what's flying, or all kind of effect and particle effects and whatever happening, that happens on the game object side, while the one which is calculating the damage for the weapon, that one happens on the ECS side. So the spatial calculation, colliders, that kind of things of the damage itself is on the ECS side, while let's say the rockets itself and the particles and things like that, because I will not shoot that many weapons for I don't see the benefit to move the weapon itself into the ECS side, because it would I have a lot of drawbacks, or there are some drawbacks on the ECS side of for doing very special stuff, like moving all particle effects and everything. There is, especially if like maximum, let's say I shoot in a event like 10 rockets out and 5 laser beams and a Yamato gun, then that one then easily can handle easier to do on the side of the game object side. However, I'd really want to do the damage calculation with the spatial queries in the ECS side. So that was the thing what split in my mind, like I have to separate these things to 3 different things, and then everything fall in my in place in my mind. So let me build that after this long introduction. Okay, so I will go and I rework this weapon module now. I will create the 3 different elements, one here in the damage system, and the another part here in the module. Is technically this is the player module, but I may separate it in 2. I may call it player module later or weapon module. I will see. Definitely this half of it is mostly about the player and the player character, aka the ship, and this side is all about the skills and damage and weapons and stuff like that. So I may actually just separate it out this way when I just created two or multiple sections within a module, sub-module, maybe. So that's the weapon one. Let's just create one now for, I don't know, not orange because we're already in orange, but and that this will be the player one on that side. I will move. I have to rework most of this to accommodate this idea. But I'm getting close to have a final version on this. Okay, let's give a light green there for the player. Okay. Okay. I will make this bigger because I think we will need that. The first thing I want to rework is the player itself. Not the player, I mean the weapon itself. To weapon data. And I really not like this self loop there. I will do something about that. Okay. And probably this timer will go over this side as well. And this was one of the attempts for the calculated one, which I call now current weapon. So let me rename this. So let's focus on this one. So this will be weapon data. Okay, so weapon data will hold all the core basic information and also information on what happens if we level up, and then also I will have all the skills. Okay, I have an effect type. That's the way I'm connecting the effect type with the skills. So if a skill, let's say, improve the area damage, then that will be calculated the right way. And that will be included if also... yeah, this will not work like that. So if it's the effect type is area damage, then it's actually, I think I will have an array of types because it could have multiple effect. Multiple skills can affect the same kind of weapon because it could have multiple type on it. But let's get to the type in a moment. Okay, let's get to. So I have an ID. I'm very happy with that. I already modified some of this by this new idea. So just a few lines here. So weapon prefab, that's actually the rocket, for example. Like that, I know that's a carrot, but I didn't have better rocket there. So that's the weapon. Weapon damage prefab, it's technically will be the ECS part, which will be a spatial collider type of thing. maybe even with some kind of effect there. But the effect I want to keep in our side. So okay, so weapon damage prefab could be the explosion or so, but I also need the ECS part here, which let's call that. It will be a game object, but it will be converted to an entity. With the baking process. So just keep misspelling that. Weapon damage spatial prefab. So that's the one which is the explosion itself. I'm not sure if I need that. The two. Let me think again. So the weapon prefab is the rocket. The weapon damage prefab, it could be like, let's say if like in Vampire Survival, if I have there is the holy water, for example, which could be in my case napalm, okay, which is burning on the sea. So it goes on the area. There is the fire. I don't need to do the fire itself. I could do that on the ECS side, but animations are difficult there, and I don't need to do many of these, like literally a couple of them for each type of weapon. Even if all the weapons go, you don't have too many of these. All the weapons fires at the same time, then it still would be no more than in a normal game. Like, I can't imagine it has more than 64 effect going at the same time. It can be handled on the normal side. So that's the reason I'm thinking of keeping that. However, I have to do all those calculations against those 100 or maybe thousands of enemies, which I want to keep on the ECS side. So I would have a weapon damage spatial prefab, which not do any animations. It's just have a circle or not circle, but a sphere area or a AABB, aka rectangular area where is calculated if it's any of the mobs are colliding with that or included in that area. So I will have 3 of those for the weapon, and then I have a power for the weapon, which is technically the how much is damage it is causing. It's the same like on Vampire Survival. And then I need a recharge length and then effect length, so I know how long it's last and how often I can reuse, or automatically happens, but how often is that reused. And then I have a projectile count, so how many, yeah, I base amount. Let's try to keep it simple when it is possible. Sprite icon. Yeah, okay. So that's the icon in the corner up in the UI. And then how many max levels it is. It has, right? I don't think I need that. And I want to rework that one. So at the moment, let's move that out there. However, I have other things here to do. First, I need the base power should have a starting value, let's say 2, and then every level it grows by 0.2 or something like that. First thing first, I maybe to allow me to fine tune yes. So the base ones are, I'm fine if this is integer. Yes, I'm okay with that. But I want to have a float for power per level. And then int for amount per level. This is integer because I can have only 1, 2, or 3 or so amount of damage, or I mean rockets, for example, or bombs. However, it almost feels like it would be nice to have if I can, because with this one I fix it up and it's always will be the same amount with I'm growing. It's a very linear way to grow. So I actually would like to create something like another scriptable object. We will call it that should be SE. I changed everything to SE. Looks like I forgot that one. So SE. Okay, so my talks here, I need to be able to set up the power or the amount, or even the recharge rate, for example, per level. But I need to be able to set them up not linearly, but as flexible as possible. So it's possible in level 1. Let's say we start with level 1. So level 2, I get an extra rocket, but level 3 is just makes it more damage. And level 4, I get another rocket. Level 5, I'm the area of damage is grown, for example. So I want to be able to have that kind of flexibility. For that one, I need to move this to a separate as a separate element, which can be odd in as an array. So let's call this separate element of the weapon is the what would be the best word for that? Per level growth upgrade. It's quite late here, so I'm level. Okay, just a moment. I will ask ChatGPT. I'm looking for a good name for class holding the values of the weapon values per level in the game. I hope it will understand what I'm weapon level progression. That's a very good one. Okay, let's call it weapon level progression. I really want to call it step. Okay, so just a moment, I jump back to so I can see the stream if it's healthy. And yes, okay, so in this progression, I will have a power step, progression amount step, and also recharge. I think it's a float. The recharge step, recharge step, and the effect length could be something what we want to improve. Effect length, also float length step. Okay, and should I add level? So each level, like level 1, I want these. Level 2, I want the next one, and so on. I could just keep them in order, but I think it makes it nicer, easier to edit. Because one of the main thing in a Vampire Survivor like game is you have to fine tune it so much. Otherwise, it's get either too hard or it's just impossible, or it's just boring because it's so overly powerful you become. But it's have to be really, really fine tuned. So I'm really want to have tools for that, and this will be one of that. What will help me to do this in this engine? I have to move everything away because I think I need to create a couple of things here. So instead of having all these, do I need max level if I have this? Because I can calculate the max level from depending on how many levels are in. It's really, really just if I have the progression steps count, that's the same thing. So so I will drop the max level, I don't need that. And then it will be I need to have a list of this. So I will have a list of the weapon level progression steps, right? Which helps me to identify how much I have to change the values in each level depending on the current level. Okay, I'm happy with that. Okay, the effect type. It's have to be a list. So I maybe one of the problem, I call this effect type, and that's not really telling what is this. I skill affected by skill type. No. Let's call it skill. What if I just call skill type, and then I have a skill type, and the skill type is affecting the weapon as well. So could be the skill type. So I have the weapon level progression step, which I on the weapon data I can I have a list of them for all the progressions, and this allows me to fine-tune completely. And also I have skills, and each the skills, but skills also at the moment they don't have any progressions like this, so I may have to do something similar for the skills as well. So skill 2, for example, improve the recharge or the amount or the power, depending on the different skills, should improve different things in each level. But that makes me think now the weapon level is actually, this is more a level progression step, and not just for the weapon, but both for the skills, because skills are technically improving the weapon damage. So okay, and then maybe I don't need to have the skill type at all, because if I have the skill, if I know what is the skill itself improves in each level, then I don't need to. No, okay, that's only helps me to know what is it improves, but I need to know which weapon is affected by which skills. So I definitely need something like this, which is doing that association at the moment. Okay. But let me rename this to level progression step, which, and then rename here as well. Because I want to have exactly the same thing to do with the skills. This N is kind of lost here. I don't need that for now. Okay, so this is messy now here, but I have to actually do this split to split out to 3 parts this weapon system. Okay, so there is 2 things here what I have to sort out with the weapons, other than I have all the base, all the prefabs for both to ACS, for the spatial one, for spatial calculations, and all the fancy effects here. I have all the base data as a sprite for the icon. And then I have the progression steps, which is telling me in each level how the weapon is improved. Okay. But also skills can improve the weapon, but also the player can choose. So, but the same way the skills, like in Vampire Survival, it's the combination of the weapons and the skills together gives you the final value on the weapon damage and so, or how quickly it's recharged and so on. So I have to be able to connect the two, and also I have to be able to work out when a weapon has a dependency on another weapon, like for the special weapons. Okay, so that's the two things to do. But first, to be able to do that, I need to work on the skills. Okay, I definitely don't need the weapon state like that, because I think that will be called the current weapon, which has all the calculated version of it. That's the current weapons. Weapons. I will see. And then I don't need this at all. Okay. Let's help a little bit. Space-wise. Okay. So, skill. I want to add the ID for now. I may don't need it, but I rather have it now than missing it later. Okay, so then it definitely, instead of having percentage, it has a list of level progression steps. Yes, so if I have that, I don't really need if I have that, I don't really need to know what kind of type it is, because I know it is upgrades the recharge step or so. However, I think the damage, the power, which is the damage what it can cause, that could be two type or even three types. But that's the okay. Let me vocalize what I'm thinking. So it could be a direct damage because you hit the target, or it creates an explosion and then it hits multiple targets, or it's like a persistent thing which is in an area and anything steps in get damaged. But that kind of the same thing. The reason is the same thing because we have a separate damage, weapon damage data I component, which is entity with a spatial collider where we can do the spatial calculations. So I don't need that. I don't need to know the type, because if for example, if this one is something what stays on area, like the holy water in Vampire Survival, or then it will have the effect length long. If it's something what hit a target, then the effect length is technically 0 because it just happens instantaneously, really, or a laser what just hits area, then there is not really have effect length on it. So yeah, but what if then okay, I still have to have a category, because for example, there is one which has 0 like a laser which has a 0 effect length because it just happens for a split of a second, or just for a moment, and then hits whatever it hits. Then if I have a skill which improves effect length, then I don't want to improve the laser, but I want to improve, for example, the napalm bomb, which is burning for a while. So it has to have a type. Okay. So let's keep it effect type. Sorry for the long circular thinking there, but I had to go around and think it over. Okay, so I have an effect type, and a list of effect type, because there is more than one kind of effect could affect a weapon, so improve a weapon, however, or multiple aspects of it. So with that one, I can close out if I don't want certain things, modify certain things. So it's kind of a inclusive list, like yes. Even if I say, okay, add multiple ones, but only for the, I don't know, the missile type. And then it improves the missile types, but not improves something else like the lasers. Could be. I don't know yet what kind of list I will have for the effect types, but I could think of it. I have only ID and the name of those. Okay, so ooh, this is messy now. Okay, I remove this from now at the moment because it's really in the way. I will make this better, I promise. I need more space and I need to rethink. I want to have all the different pieces here. Okay, so the effect list stayed. And then there is the dependency. I want to move that out from here because so there are the special weapons that you can unlock if you already have one weapon maxed out, for example, or any other condition, but it depends on the weapon and the skill you already have. If you have that combination, then you can unlock that specific special weapon. So that's the reason I have these skills and weapons in place, which technically link it to itself. Because that's a weapon data and skill. Oh, I rename this to data. Skill data. Or would be nice to break this out from here. Ah, sorry. Dependent weapon and dependent skill. So if I can have one more. It already was once outside of this. Dependency. Weapon dependency. That's the best one what I can come up with. Is that the one? That makes it crazy because it will depend so much on each other. These. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure I'm happy with that. I think it's easier if it's just it lives in the weapon. If it has any dependency on another weapon or skill. to able to. Yeah, I keep it there for a moment. I'm not completely happy with that, but at the moment I think that's my best option until I'm not coming up with a better idea. I would like to have sort that separately, but I will see. Okay, skills. So the skills, back to skills. So we have the progression steps. Can I just move this on the other side and then it's maybe not that chaotic like then all the lines on top of each other. Oh, come on. Why? What's there? No. No, I don't want to play ball. Oh, I know why. Because that one goes up there or coming from there. Okay. Yeah. Well. I'm just playing around with this. Ah, finally. Okay. And let's put on this side. It's not really good anyway. At the moment, I will redraw these lines later. Okay. Or if I put this one there. Even there. Something like that. No. Okay, which one is? Ah, okay, I missed them up. Okay, that's better. That starts to be a little bit more human readable. Okay. I also have this dependency which is pointing on itself. Okay, back to skills. Okay, so I don't need max level because I have the list. And then it's a skill only affect one kind of one type, one effect type. Okay, so one type, and here I have a list of them because a weapon can have multiple categories, multiple types, but the skill is only one. Okay. All right, so with these, I can calculate the current weapon. Getting there. Ooh, okay, where should I put this? So the current weapon. I need more space. Upward. This have to be rewritten, that one. You need the current level, but that's the player. But I only need I'm not sure this one will be a mono behavior because it's also just storing data. Okay, let me see. And it looks like the player progress is need to have the current weapons. It stores the level, and yes, this will have the oh, sorry. It's have to have the list. Okay. I can only fix this after I created that one. So the a current weapon has a weapon data, or no, it's a current weapon. The list of weapons what the player has, that's a subset of the all weapons. Okay, so let me focus on one, and then I can figure out the rest. Okay, so the weapon, the current weapon, it has a slot. So it has a slot where it lives. It has a power, a rich. Okay, it has these. It has power, recharge, length, and not base, but the current one. The active one. And then I know how many of them. But I also need to have access to the weapon data. So definitely it stores which weapon data it's, or the data yes, okay. So what weapon is this? The current weapon, which is one of the list of weapons what we have. And I need to know its current so I have the weapon data, so I know how to do the upgrades, because I can get the level progressions and all of that, and then I can reset. I can level up, right? I can level up, and also I can, when I ask the skills, I need to recalculate just let's call it recalculate at the moment. So if we level up or we have new skill, upgrade skill on, in case, I think it will be on upgrade skills and on level up, because those will be events what's coming in, and then we can recalculate the current value, and they can get the weapon value, or get weapon. I will have gets on all of those. Okay, so we have in a slot, we have the power, recharge, effect, and amount. Yes, okay. So, however, I probably don't want to use that here. I want to put that on the list, these ones. So I will have one which is the current weapons. Yes, okay. Or I could get that on the active player progress where I have already the current level, the current XP, and then I could have the list of weapons, list of current weapons, because the normal weapon data is just the base one. Okay. I think that I have the feeling I need these, not here. Could go over to the manager, and then this just purely data which is updated. But if I create a model behavior from this one, then it have to be per slot, not per weapon, because so I create one for each slot, which could be even empty, of the game slot or the weapon slots and skill slots, and then each of them has one of these, and then this could be a scriptable object, and then I move all the functionality over to the player, either the player manager or this one. Because I don't think this one needs to be, but this data is shared. Okay, no, definitely I want to do this scriptable object, and I want to remove these from here. And probably I put right now on the player, and then I will see if I leave that there or not. Okay, so let's change this to a scriptable object, because I will have one for each slot, so it's a fixed amount. Okay. Yes, and then I have one. Yeah, so don't worry, because most of this is just data. Just this one is per slot. It's in a slot, on a weapon slot. Weapon slot. And it knows one weapon, whichever we put in. That's the weapon type, and then it's we're calculating all. Yeah, that's still fine. This is still fine. We will calculate all those values, but not here, but there will be a manager. I think I will have a weapon manager to do this. Yes, I think I need one instead of this player progress one. Yeah, because I have the character on this one. And then the timer, but the timer, no, the timer don't need to update the weapons. You just have to send a message, and then the player can update them. Okay. Well, it may need to do something about the weapons. Yeah, I'm not sure this one is. I will see. Okay, let's have a weapon manager, which I feel like that will go into the player manager, but I will see a moment. Maybe the weapon manager and the weapon timer will be merged together, most likely. Yes, the weapon manager. But I want to have the timer separately. Okay, so the weapon manager should have a list of the current weapons, which a list. So that's a list of current weapons. And also, I'm not sure about the naming because I also want to have a list of the skills on the skill slots as well. And we have the skill data and the skill. Do I have? Okay, wait. The current weapon also, I know which slot, what power, but I have to store what level I am at the moment. So anytime when I level up, I need to know that here. So if I level up more, then I can look up on the weapon data what is the progression step for that level. Ooh. Level. So each weapon has its own level. Okay. Good. Awesome. I didn't see any. And anybody in the chat? No questions, so I continue. I should get some water. How long? Let me just check how long I'm doing this. Where is the timer? I have no idea. Where is it? Normally somewhere there. All right. I don't know. I just don't want that to do. About an hour now. Okay. Then a little bit more. And I didn't even go to ECS part, but I'm close to have this. It looks super complicated, but most of these will be trivial because they are just data holders, data containers. Okay. Okay, I need a current skill, so I can need one more like this, which is what's the current skill? Could be the code data as well. So then it has a skill slot. Has a level progression step. No, I already know that. I have a skill data. I don't need the effect type. I don't need the icon. I need the skill data. And that tells me everything. Okay. And I have to connect into this somehow without crossing a line, which I can't do that at the moment. So this is crazy now. I will figure this out after. I'm just fixing that because the name was changed. Yes, but the character has a starter weapon. I may not connect that in like this later. I will clean that up a little bit. This is the wrong way. I will delete this because this is really makes my life really hard right now. All right. Good. Okay, so I have the weapon and I need to have the skills here as a list for the current. Skills. Hello. Hi, Naxis. So simply tell what's your goal with this game engine in a new... Okay. So I'm using Unity as the main game engine, but I want to do a vampires survival-like game, something like this, where I will have a battleship and I have a lot of... this is just a proof of concept, like a very rudimentary proof of concept, that is a 3D version of this game where I can have thousands and thousands of enemies using... I want to use ECS with this. So that's why I'm designing it first out before I start to code. And also, I kind of want to do a serial of it, of different type of like the how the story goes. You start maybe with a ship and then continue with whatever, a train, or in the end in a spaceship to destroy the enemies. Yes, in pre-production for this one, yes, absolutely. But many of these ideas are reusable for even similar games, but not necessarily a vampire survival game, like the game loop, which I can use that to generate all kind of different game loops. So I will use that on all of my games for doing specific menu systems to even just a simple overall main game loops. The progress module or reward module I can again reuse in other games. So I'm trying to write this as abstract as possible so I can actually reuse many of these elements and make later on coding or creating games quicker for me. So that's the main idea. That's the reason I'm putting all this energy in this. Even the reward or the progress system I can reuse, for example, on a platformer game. What I'm already in production. Right now I'm doing a puzzle platformer called Multiplication Mayhem. That's the main one what I'm working on, and on the side, because I'm getting close to finish that one. I'm getting so I started to design this one, which hopefully will help me to create games quicker if I have a little engine already. That's the idea. And also I wanted to dive into ECS, the entity controller system of the new. So I'm designing up that part as well, which moving the enemies, create dobs, spawning them, and handling all the damage as well. So that's the. But overall, yes, this is very much pre-production. How many games you do in your careers? Okay, I'm coding. So games I did maybe 4 of them in my life. Most of them are. Some of them was heavily multiplayer, but web-based. I'm mainly a web developer, original, or not mainly because I was studying for software developer, an engineer, but most of my life, and that's a long, long history because I learned teach myself programming when I was 12, and then I went to uni, and then I worked extreme amount of time on a lot of different projects for a lot of different companies in my life. And some of them was like the Fast and Furious game, which was a Facebook online massively multiplayer game. I did more simple ones, which is some Facebook games, some trading games, stuff like that. I worked a lot with media, videos and stuff like that. And now for the last few years, I'm working on different games. So I did some prototypes for some company who wanted to do educational game. I started 7 in programming. Same. Yeah, you had when we talking in about I was 12. That was the end of the 80s. So the computers just came in and was available. And I have a video on it actually where I tell the story. Making your own engine in Rust, and it kills me every time. Oh, okay. Yes, that's a very serious task to pick up. I'm building my own engine on top of Unity. So I'm already on the shoulder of some giant. But still, it is a nice task to work on the moment. And what kind of game you are doing? Oh, you will check out the video later. Yeah, okay. I think that's a fun one because I put some animations in it and stuff. Okay. Sorry, back where I were. Okay, so I have the current skill and I have the weapon manager, and the weapon manager should handles when we level up or we upgrade the skill. That should be handled here. Okay. I kind of leave that for now. That's the way, and I want to work a little bit. I most likely don't need this anymore. Just partially because I need that too, but that one too can be handled in the player manager, probably the level, the current level. Yes, that's the XP level, and then the XP amount. Didn't start the game, just the game engine phase. Yeah. Is that a hobby, or do you plan to actually sell your game at some point? Okay, so weapon timer. What's the idea here? The idea here is every weapon automatically fires, like in the Vampire Survivor games, and it has a timer on it. Or, okay, it has a value on it, but the timer is actually global. So it should know about active player progress was... No, that's reward action. Yeah, that's not right. Okay, so it have to know about... No, it only need to be a timer, which calls the weapon action. Does it need to know about the weapons? No. Trigger recharge. Okay, I think I have to move. I will move that up to mostly there. So we will trigger recharge and stop and start the effect. Okay. Recharge. So okay, so we'll have a timer. Okay, so when the timer, I need to have the timer, but the timer don't need to know about that, or I don't think it's... Oh, okay, on a reward, it's get updated, but no. We move this over to the manager, the new manager, what we created here. So if there is a reward picked up and selected by the player, then we are updating and recalculating the weapons damage and so on. Okay, so we subscribe to that event. And then the timer does invoke the action. No. The weapon manager will invoke that. Can I move the whole thing lower? Because I need to have some space on the top. So I will put this up. I will have a timer. I will reconnect this there because that's the one what will trigger.event. Oops, something weird happened there with the arrows. Okay, I will make this nicer next time when I do the review. And I want to have a timer, a weapon timer, which is not doing much other than so I have a time step, and then it sends next. And that one will materialize us some kind of okay. Let's add here a new action code. Static action. And then I will read again the chat. Float. And tick. So okay, that's the one which is gives me the time is, and then depending on that I can do here, for example, because I have all the weapons, but I have to know the state of them. Okay. I need to have one more data. I could add here, actually. I could add here last recharged. Last recharge time, and then I add, so I know on the weapon when it was last used, and last, or the effect. I know the effect length, and I know when it was last. No, wait. I need to know when it was fired last. And I need to know, yeah, I need to know just when it's fired last. And from that I can, if I know the effect length and the recharge length, then I can calculate that out, both the effect length and the recharge. With the recharge length, I know when is to do it next time. Last fired. Okay, so yeah, that's it. So if I have the last fired, then I can send on weapon fire and on weapon damage. Okay, the tick, yes, okay. So the damage happens in every tick as long as the effect is on. Like, let's say there is a bomb happened, explosion, or it's better to have like in Vampire Survival we have the holy water again coming with that, but when you drop that, then for a while it's lingering there and damaging anyone who enters in the area. So that one I have a tick on it. So every 0.2, 0.3 or 0.5 seconds, I calculate the damage and add them together, and that's when I send a weapon damage event, and these events mainly picked it up on the ECS side, and then I'm firing the weapons on every certain amount of ticks. Yes, so from here I fire the weapon because here I have all the data for it, and also I'm listening. I need to listen to the weapon fire for the weapon tick, and I invoke the on weapon fire or an on weapon damage because I know they are actually should happen. But on weapon damage is actually maybe not even necessary, because if I fired, okay, so I fired the weapon and then I create the damage area, and then I need to remove the damage area. So weapon fired is not necessarily same than the damage starting. Okay, I will think about it for that. Let me just read the messages. You not start the games, actually still in the game engine phase. Okay, the reason making this engine is basic. Multi-game genre can be do async in one game loading screen, hit them. Creating my own community in that sector. Yeah, that's completely valid reasons. Recommend channel for game dev. Lots of fundamental information, but it's not about tutorial. I see, okay. I see, okay. Cool. So I fire the weapon and I play whatever animation is related to that, and then I start the weapon damage, which is placing the weapon damage. So just hop over to this little demonstration. So rocket fires, that's the fire, the weapon, and then we place the explosion wherever it's hit, for example, and then let's say that stays there for a little while. Or if it was a napalm bomb, then it stays for a certain amount of time before it's disappearing. So I need to be able to send. Okay, I need to rename these. So weapon fired, yes, and then weapon damage start. So that's when we have, I think that int it was the ID of the weapon, which we have in the current weapon, this ID. Because this mainly handled on the ECS side, so I don't want to send over complicated objects there. Okay, and then on damage done. Okay, so, and then there is a there is just a tick, which is either tells if the weapon should be fired or not, and also if the damage effect finished or not, which I store in the effect length and the recharge length values. I put this in the end for now. Last fired, okay. feels reasonable. Weapons fired, and then it's doing its stuff. Hit the closest enemy, or just go to a random place around the ship. So on. Oh my god, this is crazy here. Which one is going across? Ah, this one. Okay, that's better. So also I want to mark it invokes and also subscribes. It invokes most of those, and or the tick subscribes for the tick and invokes the rest. Yeah, okay. I'm trying to avoid. It's maybe a bit slightly looks unusual, but I'm trying to store all data in scriptable objects, whatever is possible, and I'm trying to use actions or events for communication between mono behaviors. I'm almost completely avoiding to one mono behavior knows the another and talks to it. That's avoidable as much as possible. Not completely, but as much possible. Here I have some what is knows each other, but I'm trying to avoid that. One of the reasons is because I did this way the multiplication mayhem game, and that one it's so easy to work with because that I was shocked myself how easy is that. You can check it on the other videos. You can see that when I'm working on the event system and related things. Even now, when I have to add on new stuff, it's really super easy. The only thing what I'm kind of found because I'm bolting on a lot of things to it in the end, especially menu wise, is the menus. So that's the reason I'm doing my this game loop module, which is also can do interrupt based non-loops, which is kind of funny to say, but the idea is possible to open a menu and from that you open the next one and the next one. And because I have see-through menus, I have to close or hide the previous ones and then go back to it, and it's getting complicated after a certain amount of level of menus. So I think one of the day I will just type this out and then I will just add into the current game as well. So yeah, definitely most of these I can reuse in so many places. Back to the weapon module. So we're sending these messages, and these messages will be materialized here because we were listening there. So I will take this, make a copy, not real copy, just a simple one where I just mark it as is also used here. For now, come on, delete that one. Okay, so it will be used by the weapon system. Okay, so what I have here, weapon prefab data. So that's what is changed now. What's the name? Weapon damage data. Okay, so not the weapons, we're not firing the weapons on the ECS, but only the damage part of the weapon. If that makes sense. So weapon damage prefab data, which we use it to spawn the weapon damage. there will be a baker somewhere here. Let me grab one. So we will have weapon damage. Outer ring, which is creating the I don't need that. Just so it will spawn and bake weapon damages. I think it's called, I called it weapon damage or weapon damage. So technically these ones, it takes these prefabs, those ones, and use those ones to create the weapon, the prefabs. Is that weapon data? Yes, I just need weapon data. So it takes the weapon data. Weapon damages. Weapons. Let's just call it weapons. We bake them too. When did I do that? Okay. Can I delete just delete column? This one is Figma, so it's not 100% for doing what I'm doing UML. So I will create the prefabs. And then there will be a system, probably pick that up and generate multiple of them. Or that's the weapon. Okay, when we fire the weapon, I don't want to care about firing the weapon. On weapon fired, I don't care. On weapon damage start and on weapon damage done. That's the only one what I do. So weapon fire system, I kind of so this one was to move the weapon, and then another one is fire the weapon. The weapon itself will move, but that will happen in the game object side, and then the ECS side, I'm only handling when it's already creating the damage. I don't think I need to move it. At the moment, I think this one is unnecessary. Weapon damage system, but I may have something like that. Player damage system, mob damage system. Okay, so I technically it will listen for messages from here, and no, I have to spawn these. This one is just checking the colliders, but I have to actually spawn them. So weapon damage system, but I think I already have a weapon damage system. No, I have a mob damage, which is checking how much the mobs get damaged. The weapons is the ones what we have to create from the prefab and remove them when it's not needed. So it definitely knows about weapon damage, or no, knows about the damage prefab, and from those prefabs it's creating the damages, which are a collider, has a collider, and it's somewhere, or technically it's an entity. Okay, so it takes these and generate them depending on these actions. Okay, I'm very simplifying now because this got a lot longer today than I expected. So I listen for that, subscribe for that event, and then whenever it tells me to create from those prefab a weapon damage area or data, which is an entity on the ECS side, I create these different circles and spheres or laser. If it's a laser, then ray casts, and whoever is damaged, that will be queried down by the mob damage system, and the weapon damage system is responsible to turn them on and off. That's all. I got the IDs, and the ID is for a weapon. One weapon can create like multiple area, but the ID is the same. So as long as this one has actually an ID, and we not call it damage, but normally we call it power in other places. I know how many of them. That's in the prefab. Here, I don't need to know. One damage data is one of them. Like, let's say if we shoot 3 rockets and that creates 3 spheres of explosions, then this one don't need to know the amount. It don't need to know the amount because that's only one of those, but it need to know its ID. The reason it need to know its ID because that's the identifier of what kind of when we have to remove it or create it. If you remember here, we send the ID of the weapon, and that's the reason we just not sending the whole weapon because we don't need that. So I int and ID, and this ID is not the weapon damage ID, but the weapon ID. Weapon ID. So the weapon ID is not the weapon damage ID. So I know which weapon is causing that damage. So if I get an action which says finish that it's time to finish that, which the timer will send with the weapon manager. If it says the damage done of that weapon, then we finish up and remove all these components. So we will have odd damage areas and wait. And then I will have remove damage areas. Yes. That's it. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, so with this one, I then placing in those colliders with or this area, spatial areas, what needed for the entities, and if they collide with that, this part is data oriented, not object oriented. the whole ECS system is data oriented. So it needs a really different way of thinking. And while this was all object oriented here, this one is data oriented. So it's like, that's the reason we have all these systems what run. So I creating all the entities, and then they have an ID that should be lowercase, and then they have the damage what they call cause, yes. And I think this one is also used. It subscribes, but never invokes any of this. It just subscribes to it because we are invoke it from here. Oh, I forgot to add in. This is invoking ticking, and this is invokes the rest of it and listen to the ticks. And also here we have to, we subscribe for technically all to create and remove the weapons, but the mob damage system also need to subscribe to this. Because it's only subscribed for one thing, and that's the tick. Ooh, I feel like I come out from the tunnel. Finally. Okay, so subscribe for the ticking, and then creating the damage every time. Probably also the player only should get damaged at every tick. So I can add that here as well. Oh, this got a little bit messy. I will fix that later. And then the weapon damage system is the one that creates all the colliders where we and removes them whenever it's needed, listening to the message of weapon damage start and weapon damage done. And then I don't need this fired, probably. I put a question mark, but I think I will remove that one because I think the weapon manager will do that. So I don't need to separately send a message on that when it's fired, except if it's if I want to put effects on it, and maybe that one will listen to. Okay, I leave. It's not bad to have that actually in, but not the ECS system don't need it because that's not happening on that side. Okay, so that's awesome. That's awesome. I need to actually draw up the communication diagram on this as well. But I think that I do it for the next time. But I run to it one more time, like a summary of. I realized that weapons itself is not one thing, but technically three things. Weapon data is the core, what stores all the base and per level values for the weapons and skills. The current weapon is the one which is currently we have in our weapon slots, and all the modified values by levels and skills and skill levels. And all this part is on the game object side of things. And then there is the weapon damage data, which is the actual damage which is the weapon causing, which is a different thing from the weapon itself. For example, if the ship shooting a rocket and the rocket explodes, the explosion is a different thing from the rocket itself and maybe damaging the area. It may be even a napalm bomb, and then the fire lingers for a while and keep damaging whichever mob is there on that area. So it's definitely a separate thing. So that when I identified that, after that we break this up. So I have the weapon itself with all the holds the prefab for separate for the weapon damage, and which is maybe an explosion, what I handle on the game object side, but all the calculations for the ECS, the entity system, the data-oriented entity system, I have a separate spatial damage for it, or the prefab, which is the technically have a collider with the right size, and so I have a base power, base recharge, length, base effect, base amount. So how many missiles, how long, how often causing damage, and what is the damage amount. And I also have progress steps, which is with each level how much the power, the amount, the recharge, or the effect length also should be extended or added to the base level. And it's a list because it could be different. I want to make it as flexible as possible. So, for example, level 1 could be extra missile. Level 2, maybe the missile damage is growing, and level 3, the recharge is quicker. And then level 4 is another missile. So to do that, I need, these are separate steps stored in for each level. What is it improving in that level? And the summary of that gives the weapon level calculation, plus there are skills, and the skills are improving a certain aspect. So it also has this kind of level, like let's say a skill is give a missile for any missile based weapon, and that's the reason we have an effect type, like or a type of weapon or skill, or area based ones. It's improve area based ones and then give extra damage, for example. So that would be the power. Okay, so that's the way we describe the data of the weapon and the type of the weapon. And then I have a current weapon, which is different from the weapon itself, because that's the one which is currently in a slot and has a certain number of summarized power with all the levels and skills included. It's stored in this one. We know how many we fired, how often, and so on. It has a reference to the weapon data. It has a level, so we know which level we are currently, and then we know when we last fired. And if we know when it's last fired, then we know the length of the effect and the recharge, with the recharged length, when to do that again, and so on. We have this data, and this data known by the weapon manager, which is actually doing the firing by invoking fire, or start the damage or finish the damage if the effect length is not 0. And also, to able to do that, it only can do that because I have a weapon timer which is continuously ticking, and it's listened to that ticks on those events, and then depending on that and the current weapons, it's firing the different weapons and turning them on and off. How I do turn them on and off? After I generated all these prefab from the damage spatial prefab on the data-oriented event entity-based ECS engine module, I bake these weapons prefabs, and then I can spawn them in with the weapon damage system. We call this weapon damage spawn system because its job is spawning and probably reusing. Maybe pool. I will see if I probably there will be not that many, but possibly I want to use a pool. So maybe I will have a pool here. Pooling, it means I not destroying but reusing objects, and in the meantime I just turn them off and then bring them back when I need it. So whatever, but this one is the one which is from the prefabs, creates the weapon damage, which is maybe just the area somewhere. If any of the mobs get into that area, then it's get damaged, and they get damaged by the mob damage system, which is damaging the mobs by every tick. Those ticks, what we do. So we don't do every frame damage, but we do every, whatever I set it, 0.2, 0.5 seconds. Then it's listened to this, and then it's causing damage if you are in the damage area. Pretty much that's it. And the same way the player is listening for those ticks as well. Because if it's touching an enemy, then it's get damage when the tick comes in. That's it. Weapon system is operational. So that's how it will work when I have the weapons. Now I can build the weapons with this. Some of the time it's colliding, which it shouldn't happen. Well, pretty much that's the idea. Yeah, I'm pushing some of them, but the only reason is because I think the area where I'm removing the enemy is smaller than actually the ship. It's just really proof of concept, very rudimentary proof of concept what I have there. But yes, weapon module is ready. I have to work a little bit more on the spanning and moving system because I have some ideas there. And when I did that, probably I will write for this some communication or life cycle or yeah, probably some kind of communication diagram. So, but it's not too complicated because there is kind of one event, just there is multiple people, multiple classes and entities are listening to it, or systems. So I think I will draw that up for next time. And I have an idea for how to rework the movement system a little bit. So I even make it more abstract and more general. And I can use not just with the mobs movement, but for any kind of elements what I want to move for different kind of way. Because the mobs now is always going for the target, but there should be some mobs which is, if it's sort of missiles or things which is not heat seeking or not seeking out the player, they just get fired and go in a straight line. So that kind of stuff. All right, so I'm very happy with this. I got a really big complicated bit done today, and then I continue from here, and then thank you for watching, and then see you next time. Hopefully that will be the last of this engine, and then I can do some other stuff after that. All right. Thank you. See you guys.